Ladies and gentlemen of Bungle, hope you're doing well and I hope you are having a great day. Today we are going over the Type 100 SMG late variant that's currently in Enlisted for Japan. This is a high tier submachine gun unlock that you can use in the Assaulter class. And what we're going to do is we're going to dive down an overview, talk about what this weapon is, talk about how you obtain it, talk about the performance, how the weapon is, and then lastly, is it worth it? So diving down with an overview. The Type 100 Late SMG is a high tier unlock for Japan in the Pacific War campaign. This is a submachine gun that can be used by the Assaulter class, and it boasts very decent stats, and I would say it's kind of similar to a Thompson. Now when we talk about the performance of the Type 100 SMG, I kind of like to draw comparisons to the Thompson and also compare the Type 100 SMG to the SIG 1920. The SIG 1920, if you're unfamiliar with it, is also an earlier unlock in the Pacific War campaign, and it's a pretty decent Japanese submachine gun. So when we talk about the Type 100 Late SMG, the performance on it, as you can see with gameplay, it performs like a Thompson. It's pretty much the Japanese Thompson. You have a high rate of fire and kind of a death by 1,000 paper cuts feel with this submachine gun. You pretty much will take out your opponents with a hail of fire and you will burn through your magazines very, very quickly. The downsides to this is because it's like a pea shooter where it's death by 1,000 paper cuts, if you find yourselves in situations where there's a bunch of infantry, you're going to be only able to take out so much because the magazine capabilities are kind of low. When I compare this to the SIG 1920, I feel that the SIG 1920 is better than the Type 100 Late SMG when it comes to kind of longer range engagements as well as placing shots. Because the Type 100 Late SMG fires so quickly, if you're not really a good shot and you can't really aim that well, you're going to find yourself burning through your magazines, and as a result, the damage output isn't going to be as strong as where the SIG 1920, the recoil management, isn't bad, and when you fire it, the fire rate is slower. However, I feel that the damage done by the SIG 1920 with placing shots on opponents, a little less time to kill, or TTK, versus the Type 100 Late SMG. The Type 100 Late SMG just suffers from a high fire rate with low damage output, and in situations where you don't really aim that well, you can kind of find yourselves at a disadvantage, whereas the SIG 1920 has that slower fire rate but higher damage potential, which results in a favorable weapon, especially for those that may not be that talented or that gifted at aiming. But both weapons have low recoil and overall they're very enjoyable to use, but my preference I would say would be a SIG 1920. Now diving down to, is it worth it? The Type 100 Late SMG plays like a Thompson. If you are familiar with the Thompson, which is in pretty much most of the campaigns in the list, it is a high fire rate, low damage output submachine gun, which pretty much presents a death by 1,000 paper cuts. Whereas the SIG 1920 is kind of, I would say, similar to like a Lancaster submachine gun, where the damage output is high, the fire rate is slow. So if you're finding yourself kind of in longer range and medium range engagements, the SIG 1920 will do leagues better than the Type 100 Late SMG. The Type 100 Late SMG is really good, of course, for close quarters combat and kind of high op-tempo, high pressure engagements. But the SIG 1920 offers more flexibility, especially if you're facing off against opponents that are camping. My preference, I think there's different play styles for different folks. If you're a very aggressive player and you like to be in the objective constantly and putting pressure on the enemy, then the Type 100 Late SMG isn't a bad option. However, if you're more passive or your enemy or the enemy team is camping or being passive, the SIG 1920 offers better results. Overall, it comes down to your play style and your skill level, really. If you're having a harder time aiming, I would go with the SIG 1920. Other than that, for reach this point of the video, new viewer, possibly new subscriber, I hope today is the day that I earn your subscription. Having your sub and mash that like button does help me with the YouTube algorithm. Returning sub, returning viewer, let me know your thoughts. Other than that, I hope you all have a great day. Take care.